I still remember the way the rain hit our apartment window that night, slow, relentless, like it was trying to remind me that some storms don't end, they just learn to sound softer. She was standing by the counter, scrolling through her phone, half smiling at something I couldn't see. The city light spilled across her face, catching the edge of her sharp features. That light used to feel warm. That night it looked colder than ever. "Claire," I said quietly, "can we talk?" She didn't look up, just locked her phone, sighed, and leaned against the counter. "About what, Noah?" Her tone had that distance again, like she was already halfway out the door. For weeks I'd been trying to pull her back in. Dates, small talks, cooking her favorite dinners, but she always met me with that same polite exhaustion. I thought maybe work was wearing her down, the late meetings. The endless client calls. She was chasing a promotion at her firm, a big one, but somewhere between her career goals and her new circle, I'd started feeling like a placeholder. That night I wanted clarity. I didn't expect her to destroy what was left of us. I took a breath. "Do you still want this, us?" Her silence was louder than any answer. She looked away first, then finally. She laughed softly, like the question was a child's mistake. "No," she said, shaking her head. "You make everything so heavy, it's not that deep." My stomach sank. "Not that deep." She turned, arms crossed. "You're acting like this relationship is the center of the universe. It's not. People change." Maybe I did, maybe I just need more. There it was, that vague more, the invisible measuring stick I could never see, never reach. I tried to keep my voice steady. "More than me." She exhaled, impatient now. "You're twisting everything. I'm saying you don't own me. If this doesn't work, it doesn't. I can move on, so can you." I blinked just like that. Her eyes finally met mine, steady, cold, deliberate. "I could replace you in a day, Noah." The room fell silent. Even the rain outside seemed to pause for a moment. I remember the hum of the refrigerator, the clock ticking above the stove. I remember her expression, flat, almost bored, as if she hadn't just gutted everything I thought was solid. "You don't mean that," I whispered, but she did, her jaw tightened. "I'm just being honest, maybe you should try it too." For a moment I couldn't move. There was a strange calm that followed, like my body understood something my heart refused to. I looked around the apartment, the plants we picked together, the framed photos from our trip to Prague, the mug she always used but never washed properly. Everything in that room had her fingerprints. Everything suddenly felt like it belonged to a stranger. She grabbed her phone again. "I'm going out for a bit." "Out where?" "Does it matter?" I watched her slip on her coat, the same beige one I'd bought her last winter. She paused by the door, adjusted her hair, and said, "Don't wait up." The door clicked shut, and just like that, the life I knew turned into a hallway of echoes. I stood there for a long time, not crying, not shouting, just breathing through the collapse. The quiet was unbearable. I sat on the couch, stared at my hands, and thought about every time I'd chosen patience over pride. All those nights I'd waited for her to come home late from work drinks. All the times she'd pulled away when I touched her hand. All the smiles she gave to her phone instead of me. I wasn't stupid. I'd felt the shift long before the words, but I'd convinced myself that love could fix detachment, that loyalty was enough to make someone stay. I realized then how wrong I'd been. An hour passed, then too her location still read off. The message I sent, "Are you safe?" remained unread. It was around midnight when the silence became too heavy. So I got up, packed a single bag, and walked out. No shouting, no closure, just a quiet decision to stop being an option in someone else's story. Outside, the city was alive in that indifferent way cities always are. Cars splashing through puddles, neon signs flickering, a couple laughing across the street. I walked aimlessly, rain soaking through my jacket, phone buzzing in my pocket. It was a message from her. "You're being dramatic, we just need space. Don't make this bigger than it is." Space, that word, it always sounds harmless until it becomes permanent. I didn't reply, I just kept walking, past the cafe we used to go to. Past the bookstore where she'd once said, "You're my safe place." Safe place, funny how easily words expire. When I finally reached the edge of the city bridge, I stopped. The rain had softened to a drizzle. My reflection trembled in the water below. I whispered to myself quietly, like a confession no one would ever hear. "She said she could replace me in a day." And for the first time, I believed her. It's strange how silence can stretch itself over days. After I walked out that night, I checked into a cheap apartment downtown, the kind that smells faintly of rain-soaked carpet and burnt coffee. It had one small window facing a brick wall. No view, no noise, just space. Maybe that's what I needed, or maybe it was just easier than sleeping next to ghosts. The first week passed in fragments, mechanical movements, no purpose. Wake up, coffee, work, pretend, sleep, repeat. But the silence had its own way of talking. It whispered her name in the kettle's hiss, in the vibration of my phone at midnight. I told myself I wouldn't check her social media. I lasted 3 days. Her profile picture had changed. A new one, her at a rooftop bar, hair tied back, laughter half caught in motion. She looked lighter. Like someone had lifted a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying for her. The caption read, "New Beginnings." There was a glass of wine in front of her, and next to it, a man's hand, cropped but visible. That small detail hit harder than her words ever did. I didn't scroll further, didn't need to. His name surfaced weeks later, Ethan Ward. I'd heard it before from her stories about late meetings, new projects, collaborations. She described him once as just this incredibly driven guy, a bit too confident but brilliant. Confidence. That's what she'd always said she admired in people. Maybe she mistook recklessness for confidence. I didn't blame her at first. I blamed myself for being too patient, too quiet, too ordinary. I kept working though I had to. I buried myself in late hours, kept my head down at the office. Colleagues asked if I was okay. I said I was. They believed me. Or maybe they just didn't care enough to ask again. Nights were harder. The city doesn't sleep, but it hides well. I'd walk to the same 24-hour diner near my place. The waitress, older, kind eyes, stopped asking if I was waiting for someone after the third visit. I think she could tell I wasn't. Sometimes I imagined Claire walking in, smiling the way she used to before ambition took over everything gentle in her. But the door never opened for her. Instead, she opened herself to someone else. One night, my phone buzzed. A friend from her circle, our circle, back when we still had one, sent me a photo. No context, no message, just the image, Claire and Ethan at an art event, her hand in his. Her eyes full of that brightness I hadn't seen in years. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then I turned the phone face down and whispered, "I hope he keeps her warm." The words didn't sound bitter, just tired. Weeks became months. I learned to breathe again quietly. The ache dulled, though it never really left, it just sank deeper, hiding under the routines. I started running again. The same park we used to visit, except now I didn't stop at the bench where she'd always tie her shoelace. I ran past it every time. One morning I passed by the cafe we once called ours. Through the glass I saw her sitting by the window, stirring her coffee absently. Ethan sat across from her, smiling that easy smile of his. She didn't see me, or maybe she did and chose not to. I stood there for a moment, rain beginning to fall again, before quietly walking away. Love doesn't end with confrontation, it ends with indifference. That day I realized she was almost there, indifferent to me. I wish I could say I hated her for it, but the truth is I envied how easily she moved on. Still, something about her eyes that morning. They looked distracted. Not like someone in love, more like someone pretending to be. Months passed. I started writing again, something I hadn't done in years. Little fragments, notes, unsent letters, all starting with "Dear Claire" and ending with nothing. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about the man I used to be, the one who believed love could fix distance. And yet, even as I tried to rebuild, she lingered in small ways, a song on the radio, a perfume in a crowd. A message from a mutual friend saying, "She asked about you." But I never asked about her. That was my last piece of pride. 2 years, that's how long it took for her name to stop hurting. By then, I'd moved apartments again. Better place, better light, a small balcony with a view of the skyline. Life had color again in quiet tones. Then one night, early winter, there was a knock at my door. It was late, too late for anyone casual. I hesitated, half expecting it to be a delivery mistake, but something in me knew the silence behind that knock wasn't random. When I opened the door, she stood there, soaked, trembling, eyes red. "Claire," her voice broke before her words did. "Can I come in?" For a long second I just looked at her, the woman who once said she could replace me in a day. But she hadn't, not really. There was a fragility in her face I'd never seen before, her shoulders shaking. The ring she once threw in anger now clutched tightly in her palm. And behind all that, the faint reflection of a person who'd finally learned what loss feels like. I stepped aside. "Come in," I said quietly. She nodded, stepped past me, and the rain followed her in. As the door closed, the silence between us returned, but this time it wasn't empty. It was heavy, unfinished. She didn't say much at first. Just stood near the doorway, dripping water onto my floor, shivering slightly. Her hair was tangled. Mascara streaked beneath her eyes. The sharp, controlled woman I once knew had been replaced by someone softer, smaller, almost unrecognizable. I handed her a towel without a word. She took it like it was a peace offering from another life. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice cracked halfway through. I nodded toward the couch. "Sit." She hesitated, as if unsure she was still allowed to. Then she walked over, moving like someone afraid the world might break beneath her feet. I made coffee, not because she asked, but because I needed something to do with my hands. The machine hummed softly, filling the room with the faint smell of warmth and memory. When I brought her the mug, she looked up, eyes swollen. "You still take yours black." I paused still. She gave a small, painful smile. "Some things don't change." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that everything had changed. But instead, I just sat across from her, waiting, silence stretched. The only sound was the faint tapping of rain against the window. Finally, she spoke. "It's over," she said, voice trembling. I stared at her. "With Ethan?" She nodded, "Yeah." I didn't react, not even a blink. I'd imagined this moment before, her returning, broken, but it didn't feel like victory. It just felt quiet. She took a deep breath, eyes flickering toward me and away again. "I know you probably don't care, but I need to say this somewhere. I don't have anyone else who'll listen." That stung more than it should have. I don't have anyone else. I leaned back, arms folded. "Go ahead." She hesitated as if deciding whether to protect her pride or her heart. Then the dam broke. It started out like I thought I'd finally met someone who got me, she began. He was exciting, he said everything you didn't. He made me feel seen again. For a while, I believed I'd done the right thing. Her voice softened to a whisper, but he wasn't you, Noah, he was just loud. The kind of loud that drowns out your own thoughts. He never listened. He just made promises he never planned to keep. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her coat. 6 months in, I realized I was just another trophy for him. He said he wanted to build a future, but really, he just wanted to be the kind of man who could take someone else's fiancée. Her confession filled the room like smoke, heavy, suffocating, impossible to ignore. I tried to leave him, she said, but he kept pulling me back in. I thought maybe if I stayed, I could make it mean something, but it didn't. It just kept taking pieces of me until there was nothing left. Her hands trembled, and when I finally walked away, I realized I'd already burned the only bridge that ever mattered. I studied her face, the rawness, the regret, the truth. For years, I'd replayed what I would say if this moment ever came. All the sharp comebacks, the righteous speeches, but now that she was here, none of it mattered. Why now? I asked quietly. She looked at me. Because I can't pretend anymore. I told myself I'd moved on, that I'd outgrown you. But every time I thought I was free, something reminded me of you. The way you'd listen when I talked about my day, the way you'd wait up just to make sure I got home safe. The way you never yelled, even when you should have. She swallowed hard. You were kind, Noah, and I mistook kindness for weakness. I thought I wanted excitement, but excitement fades. What you gave me, it stayed. Even when I didn't deserve it. I let her words hang there. The rain softened outside like it was listening too. Finally, I spoke. You hurt me, Claire. She nodded, tears streaming freely now. I know. And I'll never stop being sorry for it. But you didn't just leave, I continued. You erased me. You made me feel like I was disposable, like everything we built meant nothing. She broke down completely then, covering her face with her hands. I know, God, I know, and I hate myself for it. I thought I was so strong, so independent, but I was just scared. Scared of standing still, scared that love wasn't enough. Her voice cracked again. It turns out it was everything. For a long time, neither of us moved. The only sound was her soft sobbing and the rain easing into silence. Then she whispered almost to herself, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I'd give anything to go back. I closed my eyes. There it was, the confession I'd thought I wanted. But instead of relief, I felt something else, something gentler. I stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the city lights. They flickered like memories, small, distant, fading. You can stay here tonight, I said finally. She looked up, eyes wide. Noah. I turned slightly, my voice calm but firm. Just tonight, you look exhausted. You can take the bed, I'll take the couch. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just nodded slowly. Thank you, she whispered. I nodded back. Get some rest. She walked toward the bedroom, her footsteps soft, hesitant. At the doorway, she paused and looked back. I never replaced you, she said. I tried, but I couldn't. I didn't answer. I just stared at the window, watching the faint outline of her reflection fade into the hallway light. When the door closed behind her, I exhaled, a sound halfway between grief and peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't angry. Just tired, and somewhere deep down, I knew this night wasn't about starting over. It was about saying goodbye properly. I woke before dawn. The city outside was still asleep, pale light creeping through the blinds, rain clouds hanging low like the world hadn't decided whether to start over or stay still. The couch was cold, my back ached, but it wasn't the discomfort that woke me, it was the silence, that heavy, fragile silence that fills a room after a storm. I sat up slowly, rubbed my face, and glanced toward the bedroom door. It was slightly open. For a second, I thought she might still be asleep, but she wasn't. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, her coat folded neatly beside her. Her gaze was lost somewhere between the floor and the window. When she noticed me, she straightened. Morning. Her voice was soft, careful, like a guest afraid to disturb the host. Morning, I replied. There was a long pause, the kind that used to be filled with easy words and quiet laughter. Now it only carried things neither of us knew how to say. Did you sleep? I asked finally. She shook her head. Not really, I kept thinking about everything. I nodded. Yeah. She looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time in years, I saw the woman I used to love beneath all that ambition and armor. The one who used to trace constellations on my arm at night and whisper plans for a future we never got to live. She exhaled shakily. You were always the calm one, the patient one. I used to think that meant you didn't feel as deeply as I did, but you did, didn't you? I smiled faintly, yeah. I just learned to keep it quiet. She nodded, biting her lip. You always were better at silence than me. Outside, the first faint hum of morning traffic began, distant, indifferent, life moving forward whether we were ready or not. She looked toward the window. I don't know what I expected coming here, maybe forgiveness, maybe just to be seen again. You were always seen, Claire, I said softly. You just stopped believing it. Her eyes shimmered, tears again, but softer this time. You always knew how to say the one thing that hurt the most and healed at the same time. We sat there in the gentle morning light, two people bound not by love anymore but by what was left of it. Finally she stood. I should go. I nodded, yeah. She hesitated. Do you hate me? That question hung in the air like something sacred. I thought about it, about the nights I'd spent asking myself the same thing. About the anger that used to twist inside me like wire. I shook my head. No, I don't. She blinked, surprised. Why not? Because hate keeps you tethered, I said, and I've been untangling myself for a long time. She took a shaky breath. You're a better person than I deserve. Maybe, I said, but you're still a person I once loved. That counts for something. She looked away, fighting a sob. You make it sound easy. It's not, I said quietly. It's just necessary. For a moment, neither of us moved. The rain started again, light, rhythmic, like the world whispering its own kind of forgiveness. Then she reached into her coat pocket and placed something on the table between us. The ring, it caught the dim light, a simple band worn smooth from the years it sat unused. I kept it, she said, even when I didn't deserve to. I looked at it, then at her. You don't have to leave it here. She smiled sadly. I think I do. When she turned to go, I didn't stop her. No dramatic goodbye, no last plea, just a shared silence that said everything words couldn't. As she opened the door, she paused and looked back one last time. Do you think you'll ever love again? She asked. I thought for a moment, then I said, I already do, just differently now. She nodded, understanding without asking what I meant, and stepped into the hallway. The door closed quietly. No echo, just peace. I stood there for a long time, listening to the faint sounds of her footsteps fading down the corridor. Then I turned back to the table. The ring glimmered faintly in the morning light. I picked it up, turned it over in my hand, and for the first time it didn't feel like a weight. It felt like a memory, something that belonged to another version of me. I walked to the balcony and opened the door. The air was cool, the rain soft, the city alive again. Below, the world kept moving, people rushing to work, buses passing, the hum of normal life. I held the ring for a moment longer, whispered a small goodbye, not to her, but to the man who once needed her, and let it go. It fell silently, disappearing into the rhythm of the city. I stood there, breathing. For the first time, I didn't feel broken, just lighter. Maybe that's what healing really is, not forgetting, not replacing. Just learning to carry the memory without the ache. As the sun finally broke through the clouds, I made myself another cup of coffee, black like always. The city glowed gold in the morning light. And somewhere between the quiet hum of the kettle and the warmth of the mug in my hands, I realized. Some losses don't destroy you, they free you. I realized. Some losses don't destroy you, they free you.